Hey everyone, my name is Michael Renick. I'm with Team Renick, part of that Mangrove Realty Associates family. I want to take a couple of minutes to talk about the May market data. Things are changing on this part of Florida. Let's take a look at it. Most importantly, not only just sharing the data, but what does it mean to us as buyers and sellers? There's a significant impact as we move forward here. So I'm by myself. Let me see if I can click on the right buttons as we go forward. So what I'd like to do, let's talk about this overall chart first here. This is just the big overall summary in terms of snapshot, but we're going to see that listings are up 33%. So supply, available condos and homes and vacant lands for sale today are up 33% more than they were a year ago. The number of sales are down 5%. And this is data good through the end of April. It's called the May data, but it's good through April of this year. So solds are down. Pendings are, that says plus 3%. It's supposed to be minus 3. Pendings are down also. Prices down 15%. Days on the market are up 20%. Months of inventory. From an overall level, we see there's more supply out there than ever. The number of sales have fallen. The number of future sales are falling. Price has fallen. Days on the market, months of inventory are going up, which are all moving in the same direction right now. So let's go a little bit deeper and let's dig into what these numbers really mean now. Let's start with units for sale, inventory, the number of homes available on the market. In April, again, this data is good through April 30th, even though we call it May data. We had 32.5% more homes on the market compared to April of the previous year. The substantial year-over-year increase means buyers have significantly more options than they did a year ago. Looking at the month-over-month trend, though, inventory increased by just 0.2% from March of 25, suggesting that we may be reaching a stabilization point after months of inventory growth. Time will tell. Inventory has been going up, as you can see on the chart. Is it starting to slow down a little bit, the growth? Is it starting to stabilize? We'll find out. The expanded inventory is a key factor in our market's current market neutral position. With more homes available, buyers can afford to be more selective, but we haven't yet reached a full buyer's market where properties sit unsold for extended periods. Let's talk about sold, closed sales. Number of properties that actually changed hands last month. We recorded 2,219 closed transactions in April, which represents a 5% decrease from the 2,336 sales in April of 24. However, we did see a slight increase, 0.3%, from the 2,212 sales in March of 2025. Well, what does this mean? Year-over-year decline confirms our market is cooling from last year's pace. But the minor month-over-month growth increase suggests we may be finding a new equilibrium, maybe. This could indicate that buyers are adjusting to the current pricing and interest rates, potentially stabilizing our market at a new activity level. We need a couple more months of data to see where this is really going. For homeowners considering selling, this means pricing strategy has become even more critical as buyer demand has moderated compared to previous years. Let's look at pendings. This is our future sales. This is our crystal ball. This gives us insight into future transactions, future demand and supply potentials. So in April 25, we had 2,215 properties go under contract, which is down almost 6% from March, 2,354 pending sales. Year over year, we're seeing a more modest 1% decline in sales, pending sales. This 5.9% month-over-month decrease is particularly noteworthy because it's happening despite increased inventory. This tells us buyer activity is generally slowing, not just being constrained by lack of options. For sellers, this signals the need to be particularly strategic about pricing and property presentation. For buyers, this could translate into less competition and potentially more negotiating power in coming months. I keep talking about price, and I generally don't like to do that. But in order for something to sell today, the buyer and the seller have to agree on the transaction price, obviously. With supply up substantially, and it's been growing for quite some time, in order to get things sold, your listing agent needs to, number one, distinguish your benefits, the things, the attributes of your property has over everyone else, but it still has to be priced correctly. If we don't price something correctly, it's not going to sell. It's very simple. So I've got some other pricing data that's not on this chart. I'll go through that plus what's on this chart. Everyone's asking about pricing. very important metric. So the median price, not shown on here, in April of 25 was 402,000, reflecting a significant 14.5% drop from April of 24, which was 470,000. We also saw a 4.3% decrease from March 2025, median price of 420,000. Now, the average sold price followed a similar pattern. What I was talking about up first was the median sold. The average sold price decreased 16.4% year over year, down to 565,000, and down 7.2% from last month's $609,000. The average price per square foot, which is depicted on this chart, which helps us normalize for home size, volume and mix, we call it, different types of properties and so on. It gets as close to apples and apples as we can. It was $308 in April, dollar per square foot. That's down almost 15% from $362 a year ago, and 4.3% below March's $322 a square foot. Based on the 6-month trend, both average and median sold prices are classified as depreciating, which is a significant shift from the appreciation we saw through much of 22 and 23. For homeowners, this means understanding your home's current value may require adjusting expectations. For buyers, this represents a meaningful improvement in affordability compared to recent years. Let's move on and talk about the next metric we have here. Days on the market. 2 final metrics to help us understand the overall tempo of the market. In April of 25, homes took an average of 83 days to sell, up 20.3% from the 69 days a year ago, and 7.8% longer than the 77 days we saw in March. Let me stop here for a second. The average is 83 days. Those are homes that are priced correctly. Homes that are not priced correctly are still on the market, and because of that, they're not included in this metric. So it's taking longer to get things sold, and those are only counting homes that are priced appropriately. So what this really means is a typical seller is selling off. Sellers are also today accepting offers about 10% below their original asking price. So when you take a look at this kind of thing, it still says a balanced market, but things are not really in favor of a seller. That's why you need a strong broker to can distinguish your property from the others that are out there. One more metric here. Our months of inventory, which measures how long it would take to sell all the current listings at the current sales pace. It's 5.7 months. That's up almost 40% from this time last year. Firmly places us in a neutral market territory, which is defined between 3 and 6 months of inventory. So what this means right now, when we look at this and we go forward and we talk about strategically what's happening, what does this mean to all of us who either want to sell or buy? So right now for sellers, if anyone's planning to sell in the coming months, here's what this data is telling us. First, pricing. And I keep coming back to that. I normally don't do that in these podcasts, but it really does come down to appropriately pricing. People are not willing to go look at or make offers on homes that are overpriced. So the pricing strategy is absolutely critical. With the median prices down 14.5% year over year, and sellers accepting offers 10% below asking price, you must price realistic from day one. The data shows that overpriced homes are sitting longer and ultimately selling for less. Second, a 32.5% increase in inventory means your home has substantially more competition than last year, because days on the market have increased over 20% to 83 days, as I said. You need to ensure your property stands out with professional photography, staging, marketing, and a whole lot more. And when I talk about marketing, I'm really talking about targeted marketing. We can talk more about that on our one-on-one. So also with pending sales down almost 6% month over month, we're seeing decreased buyer activity heading into the summer. If you're planning to sell in 2025, sooner may be better than later, as the 5.7 months of inventory suggests buying activity is not keeping pace with the growing number of listings. Finally, be prepared for significant negotiations. The sold to list price ratio of 90% means the average seller is coming down 10% from their original asking price. Building some negotiating room into your listing strategy while remaining competitive is a delicate balance that your broker must understand and must employ into the data or into the marketing plan. That's for the sellers. Let's look at the buyers. What does this mean? With inventory up over 32% year over year, buyers have significantly more options than they did last year. This expanded selection allows them to be more deliberate and more selective in their home search. Median prices have decreased almost 15% from last year. This improves affordability. Combining with a 90% sold to list price ratio, there's meaningful room for negotiations that simply wasn't available in earlier years. Third, the average of 83 days on the market means sellers are experiencing longer holding periods, which can enhance the buyer's leverage, particularly for properties that have been listed for 2 months or longer, properties that are under mortgages. Those costs keep increasing. Finally, while our 5.7 months of inventory indicate a neutral market, the 5.9% monthly decrease in pending sales suggests less competition from other buyers. So this doesn't mean you should delay making offers on the homes you love, but it does mean we can approach the negotiations with a lot more confidence. So this wraps everything up it's called the May data. It's good through April 30th of this year. You need a broker, number one, that understands this. Do all real estate agents understand what the current challenges of the market are? You need a broker that not only understands that, but doesn't have a one-size-fits-all plan. In other words, we develop a plan by listening to your objectives, whether you're a seller or you're a buyer. What are your objectives? What are your time frame? What do you hope to achieve? We develop our plan around that with these metrics behind us. That's why we're successful in getting this thing done. Now, this is Sarasota Manatee County. I call it a macro look. We need to dive deeper. What's it like in the neighborhood you want to buy or sell? Whether it's a subdivision or it's a condo association, what's the market there? It's different on the islands than it is on the mainlands. It's different at a $1 million condo association versus a $500,000. Your broker needs to understand that. They need to be transparent. They need to share that data with you. They need to listen to what your objectives are. Then we put it all together and we develop a plan that's a home run. Without that, properties are going to sit out there. They're not going to sell. Sellers are going to get frustrated. Buyers are going to get frustrated looking at overpriced homes. It's what I call a non-win scenario for either side. It's a non-win-win. So like I said, this is just the beginning. We study this because it's imperative. This is the basis for everything that we do. What we now need to do is go deeper. Sit down with you as a buyer or seller. We need to understand your objectives. We need to put it into this market. We need to mix it all together, and we walk away with a plan that allows you to succeed. And success for me is allowing you to achieve your goals given the constraints of the current market. Let's not make this the end of the conversation. Let's make this just the beginning. Let's continue. My direct cell is 941-400-8735. Give me a call. No obligation, no sales pressure. I don't believe in any of that kind of stuff. Let's just chat. Let's see if we're a fit. Let's see what we can do for you. Again, my name is Michael Renick. I'm with Team Renick, part of that Mangrove Realty Associates family. I look forward to our next conversation. Take care, everyone.